We said start without it.
Okay, yeah.
All right, call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order. First item on the agenda is public comments on any agenda items. Is anyone here seeking to make public comment? Seeing no one. All right. First thing we have on here is replacement of HVAC units, which we just heard about in the facilities meeting.
Yes, we wanted to bring those same items, item B and item C that were just discussed in the facilities committee meeting, just to let y'all know that, those were some things that were, they were unforeseen whenever we brought our CIP plan to you at the beginning of the year. But we needed to bring those to the board this evening. They're more of an emergency situation. They're over $250,000, which is the new board policy to bring all those items to, the board. So we wanted to bring those, this committee as well.
Thank you for bringing those before the board. Sorry that you have to bring those before the board.
I know. I think Jeff's gonna do that.
Anybody have any questions about either of those two? I think got a good background from the facilities folks. So we'll be voting on those during the regular.
During the board meeting, yes, sir.
Okay. Update on the referendum project expenditures.
Yes, sir. We've been preparing, Rhonda has prepared the new construction cost summary for the projects that have a guaranteed maximum price for the various projects that we have. So did you want to go over this, Rhonda?
And this is up through December 31st. And so you can see the projects that we do have a guaranteed maximum price, those were listed for you previously, but I have updated the amount that we paid as of December 31st. I did update the status. Asher Ridge High School obviously is still ongoing. Sand Hill Elementary, we're excited the kids are in there and using that new addition, and we will be reconciling the final pay app before the end of this month for Sand Hill. So next report, you'll have the final figure on that. Somerville Elementary ongoing, Somerville High School, we are not at the GMP phase yet. And at the ponds, again, need the land conveyance, and we are awaiting a finalized contract from Hood.
I noticed with the phase one on Ashley Ridge.
The work is complete. So the way that phase one was a division of classrooms that were already existing within the school, and we were able to capture that work in and of itself. So they went ahead and presented a GMP, and then as we work towards phase two, which is really phase 2 through 4, they offered another GMP in which that's what we're currently paying on. So we have completed out phase 1, and then phase 2 through 4. You see the GMP there. Because of the time frame, we actually did make a payment for them, but it was December, but it won't post till January. So that's why it doesn't look like we've paid them anything at this point, but that will change for the next update.
But on phase one, it looks like you're significantly under budget.
We were, yes, sir.
Valley Hill. Thank you.
It's like $19,000 savings.
Excellent. Good. Anything else there? Anybody have any questions? So what happens with that savings?
We were gonna leave.
I know it happens so rarely.
We will leave it in the bucket where we have all of the construction, all of the referendum projects, because there might be a chance where we would have to pay a little bit more than what we had originally planned to pay on a different project. So those savings will all go in there.
Anyone else? All right, next item is the special revenue funds.
This is the pretty colored special revenue fund summary that Lisa Sizzler has prepared for us. Last time we gave a description of what all of the various special revenue funds were. The first section are our federal funds. We showed our budget and actual expenditures for the year of 25, and then the green section is this current fiscal year. Budget, expenditures, encumbrances. Then the final column all the way over is our year-to-date claims or allocations received to date. So our two biggest pots of federal dollars are Title I and IDEA, right there on the top lines. And we have budgeted expenditures for those. We did not have those budgeted in the actual claiming system. So with the State Department, so we weren't able to prepare any claims yet. So you will see that on our next quarter. We'll get those claims. Those are the biggest items, that first section for federal funds. The second section is our State Education Improvement Act funds. These are different buckets that we have to keep everything in a separate place and keep up with the budgets, the expenditures. Some of the items that you can see under budget aren't reflective yet because we receive those allocations later in the year. Like the ADEPT, that's for training of teachers, mentoring, formative assessments, grade 10. Those will all be posted later in the year, summer reading camp as well. And so the column all the way to the right again is the allocations that we received so far today through 12/31. The last little bucket is other state funds. Those are our 900 funds. And the biggest one there is our reading coaches that we use at the elementary level. That's funded by the state. So overall, if you look at our FY26, we were budgeted, what we have so far of our budget is 19 million, expenditures of 9.2 million. We were able to make claims and have gotten money from the state of 4.5 million for that.
So we don't know what revenue we expect from the education license plates. Is that
No, sir, it'll probably be a small amount. We could probably estimate it to be $500 at least.
Yeah, in all seriousness, what are the top three takeaways of where we're at now that you want to point out? Is there anything trending in the wrong direction? I.e. where our expenditures may in fact exceed what we have budgeted? Or conversely, there's a lot of areas where perhaps there's funding there and understanding a lot of these are directed. You can't just use it.
Right,
anyways.
right.
Does that give us an opportunity to potentially look at things that we previously had on the list of nice to haves that we didn't get in the budget for this year, that perhaps we might have some revenue to address towards those needs?
I would like to say the latter part, what you just discussed, but that's usually not the case. The first section is our federal funds. And when you submit your plan, you have to have an idea of what you want to spend the money on. Also for Title I and IDEA, those are very focused plans. And for IDEA, it's mainly salaries and benefits. And usually what happens with that bucket of money is you don't get enough money the following year to pay your increases or any step increases for your teachers that are in that bucket of money, unfortunately. So we do the best we can. I guess, as you can see, we had 5.7 last year, 5.2 this current year. And we did have a little bit of carryover, I will say, in that FY25, $5.7 million number. So unfortunately, that's something that we won't have any extra money in that bucket. Let's see if there's anything in the middle section of our state funding. Summer reading program, or my curriculum folks here, Katie, that program, I think they were going to expand that a little bit this year. So we should see a little bit more funding with that based on the number of students who are eligible to attend that. And so we're hiring additional tutors, teachers for that program. Those are two takeaways. One more.
You have to have three.
Okay. I think we're doing well though, with
Shape it anyway.
with tracking all of the different funds in our special revenues.
Board members, any questions or notes, Evan, anything? Lastly, the 42 contracts between 50,000 and 250,000.
50,000 and 250,000. So we always bring to the board, since we adopted the policy for all contracts over $250,000 and all purchases, we bring those to you every time. These are the ones that are in between that we have plans for, and just wanted to highlight these. I try to pull in some of the additional information that y'all had requested from last time. So we are showing our fund number on the far left, the fund name. So most of these are for referendum or 8% capital funds that we had budgeted or we had planned for. Like we said, unfortunately, sometimes you have that unforeseen items that have to come into play. The location number that we always work with internally here, then the location name, the description of what it is for, if it's an annual expenditure, quarterly or one time, when the actual purchase order and contract, our purchase orders act like contracts if it's not a formal contract. So those dates are reflected there and the amount, who it was written to, and then the description of the goods or services that were procured. These are all repairs, maintenance, some fun things. We were able to get some school buses, some activity buses, which again, that was part of the plan that we had discussed with y'all. We just didn't bring each individual one to you because it was less than $250,000. Some technology equipment, design for roofing replacement on Greg Middle School. I should start at the top and work myself down. I'm sorry. I was just jumping back in there. Yes, the very first one is for Greg Middle School design for their roofing replacement. Windsor Hill HVAC controls, those are 3-year CIP plan. It's reflected in the 8% capital plans. In general fund, we have open PO for plumbing supplies from our general fund. Professional services for the district office building with REI engineers. They're working on designing the exterior envelope project for this building. Jeff, my friend Jeff back here can tell us if you have any other questions on what that exactly is. There were some leaks, not leaks.
We have a few areas of water intrusion, I would say.
Water, yes.
Few. We're gonna try to look at, see if we can get a plan to remediate.
There's some windows that are not holding out the water. Greg Middle School gym floor for resurfacing of that floor. 3 full-size activity buses, 1 for each of the high schools. The softball press box, we talked about that project. That's at Fort Dorchester High School. Some technology equipment and cabling for the new classroom addition at Central Elementary. That's from referendum project. The next item is from general fund. This is for Power School Group. This is a data analytics module that we are able to use a lot whenever we're looking at redistricting. Wanda and Kenny use this program a lot to see where the students are located now. And if
Just
we
the
want to,
annual license fee.
that is, yes, sir. Special inspections for new construction, Ashley Ridge High School, Sand Hill Elementary, the bidirectional antennas for emergency responders. In our Title II, one of our federal programs, we have Capturing Kids' Hearts Training. Another 8% projects, the due diligence survey for the Delmar Highway property. New Oak Brook Elementary School edition, the furniture for that edition. And then the last 3 items are for various technology, software supplies, data processing. These are annual fees for our data recovery, the cybersecurity tools, and then the computer management tool for all of the various computers we have across the district.
Is the last one with SHI, is that just licensing or is that a maintenance or support contract as well?
This was,
If you don't have the details,
yeah,
that's fine. My question around those is, as you know, I eventually want to kind of take a look at the whole software stack and our licensing and recurring, get a better view on long-range planning for those. But are these license agreements with professional services and support contracts tied to them and what
Yes.
that looks like?
yes. I did not bring any of those contracts with me, but we can definitely look at those if you'd
That's
like.
fine. Make sure I understand. Okay. Board members, any questions? All right. Last item on the agenda is any public comment, anything related to finance. Seeing nobody. Board member, any other questions, comments?
Thank you, though.
All right. Appreciate that.
I'd just like to add one thing. is
There we go.
We're getting ready to go through the budget
That's
process.
what I was
and-
getting ready to say. Yeah.
And, you know, our CNI team, we're meeting with building principals and talk about allocations. And so we're looking at that. We have been able to place all teachers from SPAN. They all have their placements. And so that's been very good. And our team and personnel has worked very hard to try to make that happen for everybody to get their first, second, or third choice. If those people were not happy about those choices, they could put their name into the transfer portal if they want to go somewhere else. And so some of them have done that, but they're all guaranteed a job in those first three areas. And so we're just looking at all positions right now. And as we talked last year, right sizing. Again, we're still right sizing the district. And, you know, hopefully when we come back with that budget, you know, obviously our goals are, number one is to give everybody a raise here in the district, to alternative education for elementary. There is a huge need for that. So those are two the big rocks right there. And so being able to do those two things. And so I know we're going through those allocations. Mrs. Barker and her team and Dr. Wilson and personnel going through all of those. And so they're meeting with principals. And so principals get to have some input when they're going through these. So we're working together. It's not being done to them. It's working with them. And so, again, looking at everything, trying to make sure we'll be able to give people raises and just not rely on millage from the county or that money just from the state. So we're trying to do our due diligence here. And so I know, and Tina has worked very hard as well. And so the team is, hopefully it'll come back, be able to bring some things back and to the board when we're going through that process. You'll be able to see the work that they have done. So team effort. So I just want to let you know that those conversations are going on right now. So
I know when we look, so on the teacher side, I think we use fairly standardized like ratios for allocation.
Right.
Have we looked at, so for instance, like guidance counselors, media specialists, like how is all of that done with the allocation?
yeah, same thing. We have a certain standard, a threshold, like, you know, for example, with teachers, it's 28 in a classroom, depending on what grade level it is. We keep those standards in place when we're putting teacher allocation. Same thing with like a lot of our buildings, when you look at a building of 1,000, give you a middle school, they should have about 3 counselors. And so those are the things we have a threshold. So every so correct me if I'm wrong. Is that right?
Our middle schools have 4
Or 4, I'm
counselors.
sorry, 4. See, so
3 counselors in a department.
yeah, three counselors in a department. So, you know, we're really looking at those and making sure that we're following the same procedures and also the threshold, the number of kids that they have per building. So that's where we develop those thresholds. The one thing we are looking at right now, and you talk about special education, is, you know, paraprofessionals. You know, sometimes when you look through going through buildings and people are hired as a paraprofessional, those usually they're tied to a student leaves, and then where's a paraprofessional? So is there a chance of reallocating that? And so we're looking at everything. And so we talked about what do you call it? Position control. We were talking a little bit about that today, and knowing where all the positions are, how many are in each building. And so we're really trying to get really prescriptive and detailed on that. So because we want to make sure we can give as much money to allocate those that are directly impact kids. And so that's been a big task of our group here.
Are the ratios at the high school for the counselors the same as the middle school, or do they have more students, less students? Because I know they have quite the undertaking.
It
with
is
IGPs
different. It
and all
is
that.
different. Each of our high schools have a different number of counselors based on the number of students that are enrolled.
And are their ratios comparable to the middle school, like student to counselor ratios? Do they have more students per counselor? Or- I'm just curious. I've heard.
No, that's a great
sometimes,
question.
Kenny might be able to answer that a little bit, especially being a middle school principal and a high
I
school.
know I got the ratio a while back and I felt like it was kind of high. So I just was curious if that's something we continually monitor and look at.
So we do
adjust.
look at how the number and if their attendance overall enrollment goes up or down. Do we need to adjust the number of counselors, we do that same thing for assistant principals and things like that. But it is different from the middle school to the high school, but I can definitely get that for you and bring.
Because
that
with
back
the
to
middle
you.
school and the high school, you've got to think too, at the middle school, a lot of the schedules are already set for kids.
Yeah, that's why.
Where the high school, it all depends on what the kid signs up for.
It's a lot more elaborate and I
It
think a
is.
lot more like moving parts and pieces and
Correct.
trying to, deal with all the different students and their needs. And that also brings me to my next question. I know the ratios kind of, when you're in elementary, middle, it really is like student to teacher ratio. Now in high school, I heard some feedback just with some concerns regarding offerings because maybe not enough students wanted to take that class. So are we considering kind of a different approach in high school when we look at the ratios, or is it just per?
No, the ratios are pretty, so if you
Okay,
only
yeah.
have 6 kids wanting to take, 6 students to take a class,
Right.
we typically don't allow those kids to offer. Because we don't have enough students to be able to offer that when you're looking at, unless it's a dual credit, because or it's an AP class. Usually we're looking at about a 12 to 13 threshold. So maybe it's not offered that semester, but it's offered the following year where you get more kids that want to take it. So we're trying to make sure that, we don't have classes that are going for 6, because it's hard to dictate 6, for students to have one teacher for 6 kids where, in most of our other middle schools you're looking at, or other classes are 25, 30, and we don't want to have 30, 31 in a math class or language arts class, because those are heavily tested.
Right.
And so you really have to weigh that. And when you're looking at allocations and when you're, looking at your high schools, because you got to make sure they're full. Those classrooms. And go ahead.
Yeah, when you're based on a 28-to-1 ratio, if you let a class of 12 run, that means that those 16 other kids are now plus
To another
28 in other
class.
classes.
Right.
So when you're trying to balance the load for teachers and balance the class, you let that 12 kid run, then it now goes 29, 30 in another class because we let a smaller allocation run. So you're trying to, you're looking at 2 12s and you look at all the kids and you say, okay, these kids haven't taken, neither of these kids have taken both of these courses. So then you talk to them and say, I need you to take 24, need to take each. So that means you're only displacing 4 more kids throughout
even
the
think
schedule
about
rather
that.
than 16 more kids throughout the schedule.
Does that affect like our offerings that we're able,
It always does. I mean, we always do the course request first, and then we
and
have
tried
to,
it.
then we have to scrub, like, hey, this class didn't make, this class didn't make, and then there's bad numbers. Sometimes there's only 31 kids who want a class. You don't want 31 kids, but you can't make 2 because that makes a 15 and a 16.
So you just cut it at
So-
the 28?
You run it as a 31.
That one just goes a little
Okay,
bit
yeah, I'm
high.
just curious.
And,
Okay.
and then early out kicks in and
Yeah.
senioritis kicks in. So then we have 31 classes or we have a 12 class. Senioritis kicks in. Now it's a 9 or an 8. And then depending on the year, sometimes I've been able to carry it because, we've had that kind of allocations. Then sometimes when the year's tight,
Yeah.
I have to look at those kids and say, okay, if I take you out of this, what haven't you taken? Or is there a online version? Or is there, I tell people all the time, back in the 1900s, we used to, have Tried Tech teach an English class from Tried Tech to our schools. Why don't we combine that as well? So we're looking at different.
Awesome. No, I appreciate the insight. Thank you.
There are tough decisions when it comes to that. Sometimes a school will make a decision to offer a class with a low enrollment because we might need those students to complete this program. And if we don't offer this class, they won't complete. So then you make that conscious decision that I'm gonna have the small class and another group is gonna have to pick up a
A
few
larger
extra students.
class.
When we're doing like the IGPs, do we like kind of feel out like, because I know like maybe there's a class we didn't offer this year in high school, right? Because we didn't have enough students that wanted to take it, but maybe next year, is that like on this? Because when you're going to pick your classes, like if that's not there or an option, do we
So
like bring back classes sometimes or how does that work?
Certainly if there's enough students
know.
requesting the class, but that's something the counselors will talk to them about. Is
Right.
What is your second choice if it happens
Right,
again
so-
and there's not enough students in that? So our counselors do talk to kids about that in their IGPs.
And like I said, with the first wave, it's just like everything else, like the budget. put everything on there.
Right, yeah, that's,
And
yeah.
then it's, okay, what can we now, we only have so many classrooms, we only have so many teachers, or if a teacher leaves, like French, if a French teacher leaves, we can't replace a French teacher. Now we have to take all the French kids and either put them online to continue or put them into Spanish and then trying to, once that year happens, now how do you fit that back in?
Recover from that.
Yeah, and
Right, yeah.
sometimes seem like.
It's a balance.
When I was in Somerville High School, we lost German. So German teacher, couldn't find one. So now we have a small section of French and a very large portion of Spanish.
And then you gotta make sure those kids get it completed because that's part of their, part
Yeah,
of their.
yeah. Well, and that,
Yeah.
with just having kids in high school, I've always wondered, navigating that situation, how it works. And I know when you have to reduce allocations and you definitely can't fill classes with 12 students and you run into those issues. So I was,
We also talk to the teachers, hey, hey, this is on the bubble. I can't really let it go. So if you have some people in year one, because you're trying to get a 3, or you have people in year 2, I give them the list. Hey, these are the people that signed up for
Right.
3. So you need to
Do
go
some
talk to your
recruiting.
2s and say, hey, guys, anybody interested in doing this to try to get those numbers where we can
Right.
save the class.
It's like balancing the academic rigor and the offerings with our limitations and all that. So I was just curious if we looked at that like every year and
Oh, absolutely.
adjusted and how we adjust and just for the public's awareness on how we do that.
And you'll have some teachers, you'll collapse and, you'll do a 3 and a 4. So you may have 2 kids that want to do a 4. You don't have enough room. They'll combine with the 3s
Interesting.
just to get in there. So
Class.
then they can
Yeah.
do that independent study or so they can get that credit. So
Right.
of course you try to.
We do have like the dual enrollment though, and that does offer some stuff. And do we do online, like with South Carolina, the one that you do the summer school through?
Good questions. But yeah, it's a definitely a puzzle that you have to
I
put together
know.
as I know Kenny was a master schedule at the high school.
I can't imagine. I think that's the trickiest
But
one.
As Mr. Pye said, you get X amount of allocations, then you gotta make it work. This is all the money you got. And then you gotta figure out how to turn it and twist it and,
Only we
APChem
can-
is sitting there, but you need other classes. You gotta go with the testing. So,
Sorry, that was a tangent, my bad.
No, good question.
I'm not sure if that fit into the general comments of finance or we
It does
segued
because
into
it's
something
your
else.
finances, affect your
I'm happy to
allocations.
hear that. It's nice
and-
understanding
yeah.
that the allocation process is nearly as complicated as the budgeting.
We had a lot more money, we could have a lot more allocations.
I do want to
That's
talk to
how
you
you made
about
it work,
your 1900s comment, which is like just yesterday to me.
Me too.
Me too.
That's what my kids always say.
Anyway,
They're from the 1900s.
yes, I'm proud of it. All right. Any other comments, questions? All right. We are adjourned.